Hey folks, it is Sunday evening from the couch. This is Zach Roberts, as usual, coming to you from my home in Greensboro, North Carolina. Tonight we're talking about grandparents, specifically my mom's mom. I call her Mommaw. Let's be real clear on the pronunciation of this word. I would pronounce it like mom, all. But sometimes you hear people say Mommaw. The same is true for the male version, Paw. I think that's terrible. If you are a Mommaw or a Paw, then peace be with you. But I did not have a Mommaw or a Paw. I had Mommaw and Pawpaw. And on the other side of the family, I have Nan and Papaw. My mom and I spoke about this week, and she said, when I become a grandmother, I would like to be Mommaw. And she said, I love the way you pronounce it. She said, it's just so heartfelt every time you say Mommaw. Mommaw died in 2009. And I don't have any real regrets when it comes to her. I had a really great relationship with her, and we made a lot of really great memories together. We laughed a lot. She taught me a lot. And I felt that I had said all the things and given all the love that I needed to give, so that when it was her time to go, it was her time to go. I wasn't happy to see her go, but I was in a place to accept it. We'll say it that way. So a couple of fun memories from Mommaw. I just told this story to a friend of mine recently. After my grandmother left her home, she lived with different children. My grandmother had 9 children, and she lived with each of them for different periods of time. And I think she lived with each of them. There may have been somebody she didn't, but I don't know. I was a kid, so I was particularly thrilled when she would come to our house. And in the summer especially, if she came to our house, there was something to be done. And I love that my parents were not heavily involved. They might be, but they gave a lot of room, a lot of space for time between Mommaw and me. And some things about Mommaw. She raised 9 kids. That's a big deal. She raised 9 kids almost alone. Her husband, Pawpaw, worked on the railroad, and so he was gone most of the week. If I understand correctly, he would leave on maybe Sunday night and come home Friday night. I may be mistaken on that, but either way, he was gone through the work week. And Mommaw was taking care of every meal, every piece of laundry, gardens that they had going, you name it. She took care of it, and she took care of it with gusto. I've been told time and time again, the Mommaw I know from my sweet childhood is not quite the same as when she was in high gear, parenting, milking a cow, taking care of the home. And I don't doubt it. I'm sure she was a force. And I could tell you some stories that were a little bit more edgy from her, but the 2 that I wanted to share today are much softer and sweet. She would come to our house, especially in the summertime, especially around my birthday, because my birthday, July 10th, is around the time when apples would come in on a particular apple tree in Pritchard, West Virginia. And when I was born, we lived in a very small rental property, a rental home that was adjacent to the property where this tree stood. And the tree was old, and it had apples on it that were not what you find in the grocery store. Grocery store apples have been messed with. They've been waxed. They may have been genetically modified, coated with pesticides and herbicides, and you name it. They were on the property of a family whose last name was Mead, and Mommaw called them Mead's apples. And so around my birthday every year, we need to get our grip together, and we need to get over to Mead's. We need to get some apples. Now, if you today in 2025 think we should go get some apples, maybe you're going to go buy one of those white paper bags that may be a gallon size, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe you go and you just, if you go to one of these farms where you pick your own apples, that's a sweet, fun thing. You do it with your 5-year-old. That's not what we were doing. We were going like this is the Great Depression, and we're trying to get every apple we can get our hands on. And the point is, Mommaw, born in 1922, she had lived through the Great Depression, in West Virginia, no less. And then she had raised 9 kids on a single salary, or a single salary with maybe some little odd incomes over to the side. This is a woman who never ever gave up the idea of waste not, want not, or where there's a will, there's a way. She was very determined. So when we went to Mead's to get apples, it was not for a little white 1-gallon bag. We took 5-gallon buckets, lots of them. And she wanted me to climb up in the tree and bounce the limbs. Or if the limbs were hanging low enough, we'd grab them and jerk, pull, get the apples to fall. We would scour the ground, trying to find ones that hadn't been eaten by deer, or find ones that weren't filled with bugs and worms or already rotten. And then we would come home, and Mommaw would bring her own apple peeler. It was a spiral peeler, and it would clamp onto the side of the kitchen table. You push the apple up onto these 3 prongs, crank, 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 and it twists through. First thing it goes through is a little hoop. And you think, that big apple's not going to fit through that big hoop, or that little hoop, but the hoop is a razor blade. And so as it corkscrews through there, it's slicing your apple. And there's a little arm to the side that rests on the apple with another little razor blade, and it slices the peeling off. And all of this is taking place so that at the very end it goes through and cuts the core out. It cores it, slices it, and peels it all in one, if it's working correctly. It makes a huge mess. It sprays apple juice all over the place. You've got it on your hands, on your shirt, on your face. And for a 7-year-old, it was wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful. Eventually, we learned, because Mommaw and I would learn things together, we learned this is far more efficient when it's outside. So Dad would set up this huge table on the front porch for us, and we would sit outside for hours and hours. And she would let me crank the apple peeler, rip that core off the end, crank it back, bucket upon bucket upon bucket. Let me interrupt and say, if you're a grandparent, if you're about to be a grandparent, you do not have to take your grandchildren to Walt Disney World to make magical memories. I don't care what they say about it being the most magical place on earth. My front porch on Tom's Creek with an apple peeler, Mead's apples, and Mommaw was more magical than anything that Disney could have provided. She told stories, she told jokes, she told me all sorts of things about her life. She taught me about hard work, how to value a raw resource that a lot of people don't even care about. I can also say we got those apples for free because Meads didn't want them. And some years later, they even cut the tree down and said, we don't want that mess. We don't want... This is what I would consider an heirloom apple tree. It's not Granny Smith Red Delicious, which is not delicious. This is some other variety that we don't even know the name of because it's so local, homesteady. And so those summers on the front porch, cranking the apple peeler, were magical. But then we would go in and pack apples into bags and freeze them. Or we would take apples and spread them out so that they could dry. You might put them in a dehydrator. We had a dehydrator, so we would do that some. To my understanding, Mommaw used to put them on a huge enamelware tabletop, and she would spread them out on the tabletop and carry the tabletop, not with the legs, outside so that they could be dried in the sun, which turns them black or really dark brown. She said she was always embarrassed by that she didn't want to use the apples that had been dried in the sun for something she would give to somebody else because she thought that made her look poor, that they were so dark. I couldn't have cared less. Could not have cared less. So we would go in and pack apples, and usually we froze them. But the big event was making apple flip-flops. To those of you who didn't spend time with Mommaw, these are apple turnovers, or she might call them fried pies. Never once, ever, ever, ever did we fry them. She may have fried them with somebody else, but with me, they were always baked. And first we had to make the pie dough. Pie dough with her involved lots of Crisco. It was not a healthy endeavor. Then I learned how to roll out pie dough. You always push away from you. You always roll in directions away from you. You never stretch the dough. You press the dough. If you stretch it, it'll just come back in on itself. And so I learned a ton. Her filling with the apples was always cooked. And so we would cook it. You add all these seasonings and you get it to a certain moisture level. If it's just soppy, juicy, then that's not going to be very good as a filling. So you cook it to a certain level to evaporate some of that juice. And we would put it on, pretend this is a little Corelle saucer. We would put a piece of pie dough on the saucer, fill it up. You would take a little half moon and fill a half moon of filling on the pie dough, fold it over, and then she would take the back of a butter knife. I don't have any shame. I have a remote control. She would take the back of a butter knife, not the sharp part, as if a butter knife's even sharp, the back of it. And I can just see her so smooth run that around the edge of that saucer, and that ribbon of pie dough would fall down smooth as silk. You fold over the other half of the dough. You take a fork. You press, 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 press. You might take a little bit of an egg wash or a little water and go around that and press it to glue it shut. You poke a few fork holes in the top. You take the saucer, you flip it over into your hand, and then you flip it again over onto your baking sheet. And we baked hundreds of these in my lifetime. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these. And you eat them till you think you can't eat any more. And so help me, God is my witness. If I could go back, I would eat just one more. Because now she's gone. And the tree's gone. And the apples are gone. But it's a great memory. And if somehow I were hauled off into a concentration camp today, and they said the only way that you're going to be able to stay alive is if you make little apple pies for us, I would keep my life. Would you? Second story. We're sitting in the house one day. I don't know how old I was. Let's guess, 10, 12, something like that. And out of the blue, Mommaw looked around. She said, "We've got some Rhodes rolls in the freezer." I said, "Yeah, we do." She said, "I've got an idea." I said, "What is it?" See, she treated me like a partner. We were a team. Never once ever did she spank me. We were team. There were a few times she hurt my feelings, but that was rare. Anyhow, she said, get those rolls out of the freezer. We're going to make some cinnamon rolls. Well, I rushed right then. If you've never had a Rhodes roll, they have to come out of the freezer and you put them in a pan and they rise. And then later, much later, you bake them. So we didn't get to do much until much later in the day once the Rhodes rolls had thawed and risen. So we go in the kitchen, we prepare the table. Her preparation for rolling out dough was always wet the table, take a clean trash bag, slice it up one side, slice it down the bottom, open it up completely, and press that on the damp table. And then you roll your dough out on that clean inside of a trash bag. Then when it's all finished, you gather up the trash bag, throw it away, and your table's clean. We clumped all the dough together, and you can overwork dough. So she's standing there next to me saying, roll it out. And I rolled it, and we're trying not to do too much because it will activate the yeast even more, and it'll get gummy and tough when you bake it. So her idea was, we're going to clump all that dough into one mass, roll it out flat, we'll make a cinnamon sugar mixture, spread over it, roll it up, slice, homemade cinnamon rolls, semi-homemade cinnamon rolls. Could she have made cinnamon rolls from scratch? Absolutely. But she was always conniving. How can we try something new? How can we use this item in a different way? How can we save and scrimp? How can we be creative? And so I was of an age where she trusted me with the rolling pin. I'm rolling, I'm doing everything just right. She's standing there over me looking at everything I'm doing going, do it again. Roll it some more. Do it again. Every time I'd roll it, it would just shrink right back in on itself. And she wasn't saying anything. And finally, I looked at her and I said, Mommaw, how'd this work the last time you did it? And she threw her head back and laughed. She said, I've never done this before. She said, I just sat in there and dreamed it up. And that is the magic of Mommaw. Were the cinnamon rolls good? No. Was the memory good? Priceless. Priceless. She taught me it's okay to experiment. It's okay to fail. It's okay to try something and laugh about it. In the end, did we eat them? Yes. Were they good? Not really. They were hard and chewy and gummy. But the memory was worth more than $1 million. I have really fond memories of Mommaw. This is only 2, and it's taken me almost 18 minutes to share those. Hope you all have a great week. Hope you had a little smile, and maybe you'll think about your own grandparents if you were blessed to have them in your life. Or think about those older than you who took you under their wing, gave you some happy memories, taught you some very sweet things. Take care.